Good evening. Welcome to the Paso Robles Planning Commission of February 28th, 2023. I'm Mark Kogler, the chairperson, and I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask that you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would staff please do the roll call?
Commissioner Christensen?
Present.
Commissioner Neal?
Here.
Commissioner Gibson?
Present.
Commissioner Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Covarrubias?
Here.
Commissioner Jorgensen? Chairperson Kogler?
Here.
The record will reflect that Commissioner Jorgensen's absent. She told us ahead of time she wasn't going to make it.
Okay, thank you. Staff introductions, please.
Warren Frace, Community Development Director.
Marcy Reynoso and Ashley Peterson, Administrative Assistants.
Elia is our planning intern. He's going to help us with one of the presentations tonight.
Welcome. Back in the corner. We have legal.
Hi, this is Annie Branham from the City Attorney's Office.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll move on.
And Darcy Delgado, Associate Planner, I'm online.
Sorry, Darcy, I didn't realize you were out there, but welcome as well. We will move on to item E on our agenda, which is general public comments regarding matters not on the agenda. Are there any of those items? Does anybody wish to speak to an item that's not on our agenda this evening? I see nobody in the chambers here. Is there anybody to call in?
No callers.
There are none. Then we will move on to the next item, which item F on our agenda are agenda items that are proposed to be tabled or rescheduled. And I believe we do have one of those. Would you like to?
Yes, the Cheval 2 Hotel expansion is scheduled, is not scheduled for hearing tonight. It will be rescheduled. Darren, did you want a date certain on that or not?
Not necessarily.
So we'll renotice that one.
Okay. We still would be appropriate to have a motion to.
Let's do that.
Okay. I'll seek a motion to request that we table this evening and then it will be republished.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Neal, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, you call the roll on this one.
We can do that. Commissioner Neal?
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Covarrubias?
Aye.
Commissioner Gibson?
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen?
Aye.
Chairperson Kogler?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0 to table.
All right, thank you. With that item behind us, we will move into the active public hearings. We have two this evening. The first public hearing is Riverwalk Terrace Time Extension, PD 20-15, TEX 23-01, P20-0076. The project location is 110 Niblick Road at APN 009-814-052. The request is for a 2-year time extension. We have co-applicants, Affordable Housing Development Corporation and the Paso Robles Housing Authority. Do we have a staff report, please? We do.
Good evening, everyone. First item on the agenda today is going to be a time extension for the Riverwalk Terrace Senior Affordable Living Project. Plan Development 2015, it's a 79-unit senior affordable housing development. It's located right off of Niblick Road in the Woodland Plaza 2 shopping center, directly south of Kohl's and west of Walmart. A little background on the project. The entitlements for this project were originally approved by the City Council on February 16th of 2021, establishing a 79-unit senior low-income housing development. A time extension request was submitted prior to the February 16th of this year deadline, requesting the Planning Commission extend the entitlements for 2 years to February 16th of 2025. This project just recently received an allocation of federal and state low-income housing tax credits on December 28th, 2022. And the applicant is working on finalizing construction, permanent lenders, and investors. And this process will take approximately 3 to 6 months, leading them to closing financing and pulling permits in May of 2023. Here is the illustrative site plan for the project, just so everyone can re-see it. and the perspective view as well. There's been some concern regarding parking for this project, as we wanted to show this exhibit. The parking spaces highlighted in gray are reciprocal parking that is to be shared between Riverwalk Terrace development and between shoppers at Woodland Plaza 2. As for CEQA, this project is category exempt from CEQA from section 15332. And here we go, options. Option 1 is to approve the draft resolution granting a 2-year time extension to February 16th, 2025. Option 2 is to grant a time extension for a shorter period of time. And option 3 is to amend, modify, or reject the above options. And I'd like to open it up to our staff recommendation, which is to grant a 2-year time extension for the project to February 16th of 2025. And now I'd like to open it up to any questions.
Thank you. Maybe just a clarification to begin this. The item before us tonight is for the time extension. We're not considering any changes to the project, correct?
No changes.
Great. Okay, thank you. Questions? Mr. Cook, do you have anything you'd like to add, or you be available for questions as well? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. The minutes captured that. That's Dave Cook from the Housing Authority. Questions, Commission of Staff for Mr. Cook? Looking up and down the line? Yes.
Just curious.
Mr.
So
Coburn?
just curious, they say they're going to start, they anticipate starting in May, but they're asking for a 2-year extension? Or are we just doing a 2 years as a formality, I
Correct.
guess?
It's just a formality.
Okay. So, okay, that's all I had.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Christensen?
I don't know that this is pertinent. This is out of just curiosity. When we approved the project, was it needed to be approved before you guys could get the low income from the state? Is that how that works? I don't remember too much discussion on it at the time. That's why I'm asking it.
Dave, could you go to the podium?
Yeah, sorry. You have to announce yourself.
My name is David Cook. I'm the Executive Director for the Paso Robles Housing Authority. Good evening, Commissioners. Happy to be here. But to answer your question, Commissioner Christensen, when we apply for certain applications, including the tax credit program, we kind of do everything concurrently, if you will. One of the processes we do need the planning commission through the city, which we received, and that was within our application specifically for the tax credits. Some other applications that we also don't necessarily need that, but the big one with our equity investor is one, and that's where we did provide them.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it just was out of curiosity for me. It's kind of a learning. So with this approval from this, there's nothing that is required further. So likelihood you guys really will start this year?
Yeah, our plan is, and we're currently getting our approval for the building permits. We've gone through a couple of iterations there, and we anticipate probably within the week or two, or certainly mid-March, we'll receive building permit approvals.
Okay. Great. I appreciate that. It's just good info. Thank you.
And if all goes well, we're trying to break ground on this thing by May of this year.
That's it for me. Thank
Great.
you.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Okay, Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, I know that we had some discussions on parking, and I think this is just a discussion about the extension, but we do have some information. When can we discuss parking, or should we not discuss it? I guess that's a staff question.
I think it's a valid question because it's not an item that was published for us to discuss this evening.
Yeah, we did issue an addendum today. There's a number of letters that came in regarding parking. The parking's been worked out as part of the original project approval. There's still obviously some issues with some of the adjoining tenants. We're aware of those issues. The city, along with the Housing Authority and the owner of Woodland Center, is actively working on addressing the parking issues through the CC&R process. So there's no changes to be made to parking, but just be aware that staff and the Housing Authority are well aware of the tenant issues, and that's all to be worked out as part of the CC&R updates that's currently being negotiated.
Thank you, because I see this and I didn't know if we could even comment on it, so thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Davis, for raising that, and Warren for your reply. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing and seek public comment. We don't have anybody in the room this evening. Do we have any callers?
No callers.
Okay, seeing that we have no one speaking to this, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion or action. Is there any further discussion and or motion that anybody would like to put forward?
I'd like to make a motion.
Commissioner Neal.
I'd like to move approval of draft resolution A to grant a 2-year time extension for PD 20-15 to February 16th, 2025.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion from Commissioner Neal, a second from Commissioner Gibson. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Mr. Gibson.
Yeah, I'd like this project when it came to us. I recognize and validate that there were some concerns from some of the tenants, but that this shopping center has been largely vacant for a long period of time. That pad has never been used, and that's not exactly a new shopping center anymore. And that whole area through there, especially after JCPenney left, is largely unused. I mean, it gets very little traffic. I'm over there because one of my favorite stores now has become Harbor Freight. So I'm over there weekly, so I can attest to what the traffic is at any time of day or night, whenever they're open, or just before they close. But and I think this is a project that the city desperately needs. And I think it's, as I said at the time, my impression was that I was joined in by my fellow members, is that it seemed highly appropriate for senior citizens because they really don't even need a car. I mean, that they have adequate shopping, groceries, restaurants, clothing, and we desperately need some more lower cost housing for our senior citizens. So I'm fully in favor of this.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I just wanted to echo Commissioner Gibson's points on that. I would agree. I think it's going to be exciting to see this project. I think it'll be a real benefit to that particular shopping center. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, the project had the full support of the commission in the past and continues to do so. Okay, if there's no further discussion, I would ask staff to please call the roll.
Commissioner Neal?
Aye.
Commissioner Gibson?
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Covarrubias?
Aye.
Chairperson Kogler?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Yeah. Thank you. We're looking forward to it. Okay, our next public hearing is Pioneer Park Street Abandonment. Location is at 2198 Riverside, APN 008183023. It's a request to summarily abandon streets located at the Paso Robles Event Center. The applicant is the city, and we have Mr. Athey here, I think, to provide us with some information. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Kogler, members of the Planning Commission, David Athey, City Engineer, here to talk about a proposed road abandonment at the fairground. This is an old subdivision from the late 1800s called the Gregory subdivision. But first, before I break into that, I want to just go over a little bit here on the project request tonight. So back in April of last year, you approved a parcel map for the Pioneer Park, which basically creates 2 new parcels. And the city has an agreement with the fair for purchase of the parcel that actually is along the freeway. So part of that approval included a small sliver of right-of-way that would be abandoned next to the parcel on Gregory Avenue. This action tonight is for the rest of the paper streets and Gregory Avenue, Hortense, unnamed frontage road, unnamed alleys, Victoria, San Luis Obispo Avenue, or San Luis Avenue. And really it's meant to allow the fairgrounds to expand their operations. Clicking fast here. So it's allowed by the Streets and Highway Code, and the Government Code section 65402A requires these two findings by the Planning Commission, and then that would be forwarded to the City Council for their final approval. So tonight, you're looking at the abandonment of several roads in the recommendation. So there's a site at the end of the fairgrounds. Pioneer Park is on this side. Pioneer Museum is there. Kind of that little, and that's the Gregory subdivision essentially at this location. It's all part of the Riverside Farm subdivision that was created back in the 1800s. So this is the site plan. Just kind of orientate you here. This is Riverside Avenue, 21st Street. This is Gregory Avenue. So if you had lambs at the fair one year or some beef or something, you'd take your animals in here. And this used to be camping, and now it's where the folks stay and those kind of things. So this is the Gregory subdivision here. It came out, it created a number of right-of-ways and roads. Victoria Place used to actually go through here. It was all set up to be a regular subdivision of homes. And actually, before the fair bought this into the, this end of the properties, there used to be homes here on this area. And again, here's Pioneer Park down in this corner, and Pioneer Museum in this corner. So basically that's, let me back up again. So these shaded areas are the areas that are scheduled or proposed for road abandonment. Victoria Place, San Luis Avenue, the frontage road. There's a small portion of Hortense Avenue. Hortense was abandoned when US 101 came through. Caltrans did all that. And basically Caltrans established this new frontage road to give the fair access in this back portion here. That would be back in the 1950s. And so on top of abandoning the right-of-way, we're also keeping public water, sewer, and stormwater easements and public utility easements, because there is sewer and water that runs down through here. There's stormwater that runs down through these areas. So that we need to retain those as public easements, which is typical for road abandonments. Now, in the future, the fair could apply to those utilities and ask them to forego their right to the utilities right to put a utility in these old roads. But at this point, since we don't have all those utilities signed off, it's better off waiting until they have a future development, and the fair can take care of that through their process. So those are the roads. We have a proposed draft resolution tonight. Now, we've been struggling with the Surplus Land Act, trying to really come up to speed. What does that mean? So when the city owns property and we sell it, the state has now changed the law. There's several stipulations on what you can and can't do with that land. The good news is this is not actually a parcel that we own in fee. So it's this action tonight is exempt from the Surplus Land Act. I had put that in the resolution, and our attorney has told us that we don't need to, since it is exempt, we don't need to make those findings. So one of my recommendations tonight is on page 59 to strike this whereas from the findings. Basically just says it's exempt. So since it's exempt, we don't need to say it's exempt. And then on page 60, in section 2, the findings, we don't need to make that finding that is exempt. So we're also recommending that come out of the proposed resolution tonight. Now on page 61, I'd like to propose a new condition that the street vacations before you tonight are contingent on the fair parcel being bought by the state. So when that deal occurs and we get the money, they get the land, then we would file the road abandonment at that time. So this is just setting it up for all these bits and pieces to make sure they work together. So that is a recommendation to add that condition. So options tonight is approve the modified draft resolution A with the changes I just described. basically abandoning these portions of Victoria Place, San Luis Avenue, Frontage Road, Hortense Avenue, Gregory Avenue, and or portions of these streets, and unnamed alley and rights of way in the fairgrounds. You can also recommend the city council deny it with findings, and you can also refer it back to staff for more work. So our option, our proposal for you tonight is to consider option 1, adoption of the draft resolution A. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Thank you very much. Questions from the commission. Start, Commissioner Christensen.
Thanks, David. So where it ends on Gregory Avenue, I was trying to get an understanding. I mean, I go down there all the time. Since we abandoned that portion, I know it's not closed off now and it'll still be effectively used currently. In the long term of things, I mean, is there going to be is the Mid-State Fair putting some kind of barrier there? Would there be a turnaround there? I mean, what is anticipated with that? Have they made any kind of overtures on what they plan to do in the immediate future?
I'm not aware of any immediate plans, once the sale goes through on Pioneer Park. We have discussed with them in the past of gating Gregory Avenue. They want to have a secure site. My guess is the gate, instead of being back on Frontage Road, at the end of Frontage Road, it'll move out to this location. If they own that portion of Pioneer Park, they'd certainly be able to fence it, which I'm guessing they would, and to provide some kind of security. Now, the Pioneer Museum that's here, they do have an existing easement, which is why this section of Gregory Avenue that's white is currently left as
so that was kind of
right away.
That was kind of going to my next question. I guess it would be addressed if they do fence that. But what about? I mean, has the fire chief looked at this or anything? Do we look like there might be an issue with circulation there in the future?
We haven't had, as far as I know, the fire chief hasn't looked at it in terms of circulation. What we anticipate will happen is the Pioneer Museum and the fair will cooperate and potentially abandon the rest of Gregory Avenue and then possibly move their gate up to Riverside Avenue. There's been no discussions on that, but that's how we see that in the future being handled. This is a 50-foot right-of-way, so there is quite a bit of space here. I think any development that occurs on this parcel, obviously the fair has, since it's a state agency, they have superior rights.
Well, I guess what I'm kind of wondering too is more of a question, I guess, and I know you probably can't answer this right now, but in the sense, the Pioneer Museum, I mean, Pioneer Day, when, everything's rolling out of there, if they did cooperate later and wanted to close off or abandon the rest of Gregory Avenue, that would have to submit for that to happen so that the city would give that portion up?
Yes, they would have to ask for
so that and then if they did decide to coordinate and block that off, that they would have to apply for that abandonment first, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they could not trick presentation. They couldn't just put a gate here and close that off. And if it was abandoned in the future, the way abandonments work is half of Gregory, so 25 feet of Gregory would come back to the Pioneer Museum and half would go to the other side.
Right.
So if they couldn't agree, they could each have a 25-foot driveway that.
Right. I'm just thinking of, Pioneer Day getting all those big harvesters and tractors and, equipment in and out of there would be quite a burden if that was restricted in some way. So,
well, that's why we anticipate that they would work together on that, like on a shared agreement or something on that gate. So at this time, we're not.
It doesn't affect it right now. Okay. That's all I had right now. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Neal, no questions? Commissioner Gibson? I have no questions. Commissioner Covarrubias?
All right, David, educate me. When a street is abandoned, does the name and everything just go off the map? It's done? It doesn't exist anymore?
Correct.
Okay. So the portion that is abandoned, that is then owned? It's owned by the fair?
Correct. So this 25 foot here, let's just take Gregory. We'll make it easy. So this 25 feet on the Pioneer Park side, since we own it, if we retained ownership and we did the abandonment, this 25 feet would come back to the Pioneer Park, and then the opposite 25 feet would go to each one of these parcels. So the frontage, their front property line would be extended 25 feet. And so that land is there. So the theory is that when these maps were created, the land for these roads came from those parcels, right? And then everybody has given half for the roads.
Got it.
But we do go back sometimes, sometimes when let's just say there's only one property fronting it and there's a 50-foot right of way. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it all goes back to the one parcel. It just depends on how it was created in the very beginning. So if one parcel, dedicated the whole 50 feet, then they would get the whole 50 feet back because it has to go back to whoever dedicated the land.
So with the portion that is owned by the fair, are there multiple APNs then on that property, or is it just one all under one APN?
My understanding is that there's multiple APNs in the fairgrounds.
Okay.
Like this area, all the streets to the north have already been abandoned by the city. So we've already given up all those streets. My understanding of how I'm not an expert on the assessors stuff that they do, but my understanding is they will group all these lots in one APN.
Oh, okay.
But there's underlying lots still.
Right. Interesting. Okay. Thank you for that. No other questions.
Mr. Davis.
Yeah, David, I had the same questions I think Ty was asking. Obviously, there are parties to the north and the south of Gregory that have expansion plans. So what I'm hearing is you've talked to both parties and they're fully aware of this abandonment plan.
I have talked to the Pioneer Museum in the past. I have not talked to them lately about it, or we haven't talked recently about the western portion of Gregory Avenue.
And I kind of had that same question that Ty did. I know in the near term, will those tractors be able to make that turn and get into that? I think that the people from the Pioneer Museum would want to make sure that could happen. So that was one question. I wanted to make sure both parties, both to the north and south, they both have expansion plans. They're aware of this. Didn't want to catch anybody by surprise. My second one, I did have a steer. We went in Gregory Avenue. Okay, so I'm very familiar with that route to get into the back of the fairgrounds. Refresh my memory. How circulation will change now that there's been these transactions. Don't you access the animals through the fair further down? What's the street? Because I'll have people ask me how you access the fair with your animals.
Right here.
You'll continue to do that until they pull that permit, is what you're saying.
The fair will continue that. I mean, I don't know what their plans are specifically, but it's pretty important that the animal part of 4-H and FFA. So I imagine they'll have some, either keep bringing people in here or have some other new access site.
For some reason, I was thinking in our circulation planning, there was another access route down further south.
Well, there is a driveway next to the gas station on the north side of the fair. There is a driveway.
No, I'm talking about south of Pioneer Museum.
Well, there is, let's see if I might have a map here. Let's see, 21st. I think it's 19th Street is right here. And so I don't have a map of Pioneer Park, but I think it's 19th and Gregory. So they're going to own all the way to 19th. So that's an improved road. So they could come in that way.
I was thinking that in the future, the fair had a different access point.
Yeah. We would give them we'd give them a drive approach and let them, or, some type of access.
We're always talking about the quality of our roads. So I'm presuming that we would maintain this until the fair pulls that permit, or does the maintenance stop now?
We'll continue to maintain Gregory until the road is abandoned, then we'll maintain in our, current standards, the portion that we retain. The one thing I did want to mention, I don't know if I clearly explained this, but this distance right here is about 100 feet. So it goes all the way down. You know that gate, that side
There's
gate?
that gate, yeah. And there's a lot of area there.
It's on the east side of that gate where this abandonment starts.
Okay.
So that's Victoria Avenue where that gate is. So that's why we pushed it back.
Further.
So they'd have the museum and everybody would have plenty of turnaround. Because
Not
I
an
know
impact.
in discussions with the Community Services Department, they still want to do park cars and do other things here on this parcel for there's it's part of the agreement. We get to still use this Pioneer Park parcel for I think it's 3 years, some amount of time. So we're going to have a temporary access here too. So that's going to continue.
I just know you have two parties very interested in future plans. I just don't want to catch anybody by surprise.
And that's why we left plenty of room, and we definitely want both entities to work together on a plan that works.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just one quick question. The staff report references in a couple of places the purpose being to allow expansion of the event center. Is there a plan for that? Is there a master plan for the state fairgrounds that this is a part of?
My common sense side wants to say yes, but I don't know specifically. Have you seen one? I haven't seen one.
No, the city doesn't have a master plan from the fair in terms of what their exact plans are for their portion of Pioneer Park that they're acquiring. But they have worked with the city council for a number of years, and everyone's come to a mutual agreement that it is best for the fair to end up owning that piece of land.
Okay. Obviously, they have more flexibility in doing so in the future. The fair. So, okay, that's all. Question. Any other questions?
I just wanted to kind of jump back on I think what I was kind of trying to get at, David, is my concern is that, if we give up that street, I mean, technically they could fence it off tomorrow, right? So they would be owning it as of at least half of the street until the transaction on Pioneer Park is solidified. Then they would own the remainder of the entire street that's in the dark area here. I guess what I was just thinking is that there's nothing in this that talks about working something out as, like a turnaround or anything. If they decide to do that as part of their plan, and people are using that because we still own the portion of Gregory, there's nothing on either private property on either side except for the easement for Pioneer Museum, which there's nothing there that prevent people from using that space. That's my concern, is just I'm looking at that from that standpoint of like, you have three different entities right now. That's going to me, it's going to become an issue eventually when they decide to do something with that. And we're talking about a temporary use for parking. I get that. I just think it needs to be really taken into account. I'm not really opposed to abandoning the road. That's not what I'm saying. I guess I'm saying that I'd like to know that we have some really good say about what's going to happen, transpire from there, because technically once we abandon it and they take it, it's theirs. They literally could fence off half the street tomorrow. So that's kind of where I was trying to get at before, and I don't know if I reiterated that enough. So.
No, I understand you. So this action tonight, like tomorrow, they couldn't go out and fence it. They couldn't, because it's still, until the council abandons it, it's still right away. We've had a good working relationship with the fair, and I think that will continue. When this is abandoned, they could gate it, but we also have a secondary agreement with them on use with the city. We would definitely try to work with them on their future plans. I mean, they're a superior agency, so they don't have to tell us anything, but they do cooperate, and we would anticipate whatever they do not creating a problem with emergency services or something else. I mean, it's in their you've probably seen it. The cars back up. This is one of their big long queuing zones when they have all those animals come to the fair, or the or the carnival rides and those kind of things.
And I think that's why her question about other access is so important, because I can't imagine that the other street, that those people living on that street or the park being there would be, makes it really conducive for more heavy traffic with the skate park and kids running around and stuff. So anyway, I think you've answered my question, and I'll let it go from there. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Neal.
I think one of the amendments or addendum amendments to the resolution was that this abandonment would not take place until the sale of Pioneer Park went through. Did I get that right?
Correct. Until the state of California approves the purchase agreement.
So essentially, they could not do anything to Gregory until they took possession of that portion of Pioneer Park.
When this happens, and after the city council approval, when this happens, then we'll take it down to the recorder's office. Because so it could be 2 years. It could, worst case, 2 years from now or something.
Thank you. So,
all right. Any other? Okay, this is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. If there are comments to be made, we don't appear to have anybody in the room. Is there anybody online or calling in?
No, there are no callers.
Okay, seeing we have no one who wishes to speak to us on this matter, either in present or on call-in, we'll close the public hearing and bring this back to the commission. Commissioners, discussion or motion?
I'd like to make a motion. I move to approve street abandonment 23-001 for portions of Victoria Place, San Luis Avenue, Frontage Road, Hortense Avenue, Gregory Avenue, and unnamed alleys, and reserving several portions of the right-of-ways for water, sewer, stormwater, and public utility easement purposes, with the amendment for staff's recommendations that on page 59, we're going to strike the paragraph that discusses Government Code 54221. On page 60, we're going to strike paragraph 4, which also discusses Government Code 54221. On page 61, we're going to add condition number 2, stating that this street vacation is contingent upon the state of California approving the Pioneer Park purchase acquisition agreement.
We have a motion, Commissioner Gibson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Covarrubias. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, I'll ask you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Gibson?
Aye.
Commissioner Covarrubias?
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Neal?
Aye.
Chairperson Kogler?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Very good. All right, we will move on to discussion items by staff. Do we have discussion items?
There are no discussion items tonight.
All right, thank you. We'll move to consent calendar. We have 2 items before us this evening, the Development Review Committee minutes from January 23rd and also from January 30th. Any comments by the commission? I have a couple. On page 67 at the bottom of item number 2, staff presented the project, which is a medication of the approved phase 2. How about modification, maybe? Could be. And then on the next page under item 3, page 68, yes.
What page was that again?
That was on page 67 at the bottom of the page, just a word change.
Okay.
And then on item 3, page 68, there appears to be kind of a bust or something in it. Kind of towards the bottom, there's a number 4, fencing to the east, question mark, robust landscaping important, the word support. Seems like some text maybe got rearranged there a little bit.
What page is that?
Page 68.
68.
Item number 3, just above where the word action is, those sentence phrases that are there, it looks like that needs just to be cleaned up a little bit maybe.
Robust landscaping important.
And it says support, it's number 4, fencing to the east, there is no 1, 2, or 3. It just seems like something didn't make sense there. You could just check that. I trust staff can review that.
We will clean that up.
Yep. That was the extent of my comments. Any others? Okay, if not, motion to approve would be in order.
I move that we approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Christensen, second by
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Gibson. Any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none, ask you to please call the roll on that.
Commissioner Christensen,
Aye.
Commissioner Gibson,
Aye.
Commissioner Neal,
Aye.
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Covarrubias. Aye. Chairperson Kogler.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0 plus changes.
Okay. On to other reports. We have 3 items under this sub-items. The first is the Paso Robles Streetscape Ad Hoc Committee report.
So we have 2 items. One is we're going to have a vacancy with Jorgensen's seat. So we're looking for some direction on potentially refilling that. And then we need to pin down our next meeting, I believe, March 27th. Does that work for Covarrubias and Kogler?
Yes.
Okay. So we're looking for some direction on Jorgensen's seat.
Okay. I would, yes, Mr. Christensen.
If I might make a comment, would it be prudent to maybe make the decision at the next meeting when we have all the new commissioners in place?
That's what we're looking for direction. So we could appoint now, or if we could move this to the next agenda.
Unless someone else wants to jump on. Okay, yeah.
Mark, your microphone's off.
Thank you. No objection to that. We could certainly do that, but I would also suggest consideration of putting Commissioner Neal on the committee, simply because he was present for the charrette and was involved in some of the activities, and I think he's well informed.
Yeah, maybe that's a great idea. I'm not saying that we need to push it off. I was just suggesting if we couldn't find somebody that wanted to take the position.
And with my current workload in DRC, I don't think I can give the committee what it needs. So I think I would respectfully decline.
All right, unless there is any objection, we'll defer this, if that's okay with the commission, to the action that we take at our first meeting next month.
Okay, so you didn't want to be on the committee?
No. Well, 2 of us are still on the committee.
He's already on the committee.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Right, it was just
Okay.
we need to replace Commissioner Jorgensen with another face.
Right, okay, my bad. Thanks.
Commissioner Neal will not be that face, so. Okay, we will hear this and act on this at our next meeting, which is now confirmed on the 27th of March.
Correct.
I think it's 1:30, something like that, somewhere in there. Will be published. Okay, Housing Opportunities Constraints Committee, Zoning Code Update Report.
I don't believe we have any formal update. We're continuing to make very good progress with the consultant. Right now, I think tentatively, we're looking to report back to the HCOC probably around March 30th, and then usually we come right to the commission at the next agenda. So we do believe that we're getting close to pretty much a full draft of the zoning code. The goal is to have that wrapped up before fall of this year. So we'll keep you informed, but probably another month or so before you see something.
Very good, thank you. Item 7 on our agenda is the DRC rotation schedule, which now runs through March. I am on that. I did have a conflict, and Commissioner Covarrubias generously agreed to cover for me, so that will occur next Monday. Any other conflicts? Commissioner Neal, Christensen, we good for March so far? Okay. All right, we will dispense with that one. Item number 7, or K rather, Planning Commissioner's comments. Start with Commissioner Covarrubias.
No comments.
Commissioner Davis.
I just have a comment that I'm not going to be at the meeting on the 5th, the reorganization dinner, unfortunately. And I just want to say how much I've enjoyed working with 2 commissioners who will be leaving, Commissioner Gibson and Commissioner Jorgensen. It has been a welcome experience, and I am going to miss your presence on this board.
Thank you. Mr. Christensen.
I just wanted to say I apologize. I knew you were on. I thought you were trying to get off the committee, so I apologize. I was confused, but no, I don't have any other comments other than that, so thank you so much.
Mr. Neal.
I too would like to thank the two outgoing commissioners. I very much enjoyed working with them during their time on the commission. They will be missed.
Commissioner Gibson.
I'd like to say to my fellow commissioners with sincere respect and admiration for the work that you've done. It's truly been a pleasure to get to know each one of you and work with you. You do valuable work, and I think we did a lot of good work in the last 3 years since I've been on the project, commission. To Warren and your staff and David, because I'm not sure you're actually on Warren's staff, it's truly been a pleasure. You guys are the most professional group in the county. When I go to different groups with hanging out with contractor type people, they pointed out how well Paso Robles is represented by you. And I, again, appreciate getting to know you and working with you, and I wish everybody the best.
Thank you. Thank you. I certainly feel the same way as some comments that have been offered here tonight. In my career, I had the pleasure to work very closely with a lot of planning commissions over the years. And I don't know that I ever saw one that is more cohesive and truthfully fun to work with than what this group has been. And I'm appreciative of that. I've been appreciative of that twice a month and sometimes every Monday with this group and subsets of that. Commissioner Jorgensen, for me, it was a pleasure working with her. And if she's listening or whatever, I appreciate the efforts. It was great having an architect, I think, on this group because she brought insights that some of us didn't have, or at least to the degree we didn't have. And she certainly brought a passion for design in the community that I think we will have to all replace. Commissioner Gibson, truthfully, what can I say? Because the dedication you showed and the detail, and you got into things that I didn't think about frequently, and I think you brought great value to this group. I think you have served this community very well in occupying that chair at the time that you did. I appreciate it and certainly wish you the best. Any other comments? Okay. Staff comments.
Yeah, I think staff would echo the comments. We're really going to miss Commissioner Gibson and Jorgensen. The work that this commission's done over the last 3 years has been extraordinary. The Olson specific plan, the Beechwood specific plan, the Gateway Resort annexation are just a few of the projects that you've handled very well. So we're going to miss you, and we really thank you for your dedication. We do have the dinner coming up on the 5th. That's Sunday evening. It's going to be at Firestone, 6:30. So our new commissioners, Eric Marlowe and Pat Connolly, will be swearing them in at that meeting. We've decided that we're not going to do the elections at the dinner just because we don't have everybody there. So we're going to schedule that for your first meeting, which is going to be on March 14th. That should be a fairly busy meeting. I think we have a Olson specific plan development plan that's coming back through, and then a winery project out at the airport as well. So I know Darren's cranking on those. And then also in March, probably the next meeting, there's a couple of large multifamily projects that might be ready as well. So March will be a fairly busy meeting. And do you have anything else, Darren? That concludes staff's report.
Okay, thank you. What we have left is a motion to adjourn, and I would ask if Commissioner Gibson would like to make that motion.
I move to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Neal, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion passes.